So good afternoon, Meabh. Thank you very much for joining us on Business Owner Spotlight. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Meabh Reynolds. I am the CEO of Goplugable. I'm a recent graduate from Queen's University, Belfast. I've just graduated in my Master's in Mechanical Engineering. And with Goplugable, we're basically building an Airbnb for electric vehicle home chargers. So the idea is that if you own an EV but you don't have access to a home charger, either because you live in an apartment or you don't have a driveway on your property, it means that someone in your community can rent out their EV home charger to you using our community-driven marketplace smartphone app.
So that's really cool. So who would be your ideal customer then? Who would you most like to talk to?
Yeah, so as we're a B2C model, our user cases are quite varied, but we envisage that the typical person who would use our app is obviously someone who owns an EV but doesn't have easy home charging access. And then the usual host would probably be someone who works from home or has a hybrid sort of working environment, and maybe someone who's retired or a carer, so they spend a lot of time at home, so they're able to be more flexible about renting out their home charger. And we typically we envisage that people will make recurring scheduled bookings with someone in their community, so it will likely be the same, two parties meeting with each other for this transaction on a few occasions.
Yeah, so that makes sense. And the person who has the charger is going to have to be there to give access to the person who wants to borrow it then?
Yep, 100%, yeah.
So how would that work? Would they then pay them for the time through the app then? Is that how it works?
So how the app works, basically, so the chargee, so the person who needs the home charger, would basically put in their home location, and then they would search for the area that they would like to charge. So it can either be somewhere close to their home or somewhere close to their place of work. And then they'll be taken to our interactive charging map. So from there, you can see the hosts in your area who define the price at which they would like to rent out their charger. You can see the competitive kilowatt per hour pricing range close to you. And then from there, you schedule a time and place that suits you best. And then you just charge up, connect, and you can go about your business while your car is charging at someone else's home. So it gives you a lot of, convenience and accessibility in that sense. We have did a lot of consumer research, and a lot of current EV drivers are sick of having to divert their journeys from A to B, to go to find a local Apple Green to sit in a driveway for 40 minutes waiting on their car charging. So it does bring a lot of convenience to the EV owner.
And I'm thinking as well, from experience, if you've maybe misplanned your journey, is it something you could do at a last minute? Maybe just jump on the app, and if you need range or charge quite quickly.
Yeah, of course. So with our app, all the bookings have to be approved by the hosts, and it's all very securely operated. So the host's exact location isn't shown until a booking is approved. So It means whenever a host is active, they can approve the booking, and then their exact address will be given to you for you to then start your charging with them.
Cool. So, and it sounds like a really practical, useful. Absolutely. Is it operational, or is it far away from coming online, or what stage is it all at?
So we started this whole journey in February, actually, so it was only 5 short months ago, but we've made a lot of amazing progress in that time. So our tech team in India have been developing our app since then, and we've been funding that through a series of grants and competitions that we were lucky enough to win along the way. So our app is almost finished development. Currently we have a survey to assess perceptions of EV charging and EV ownership on the island of Ireland. And from there, that's just continuing our market validation to really pave the way for our MVP. And we're hoping to launch to market at the end of September. So we're quite close to actually being on the market. But there are, a lot of steps to go before we actually get there. But it's exciting.
Sure. Yeah. So look, you said a lot of steps, and 5 short months, but it sounds like you've taken a lot of steps already. So what has been the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as a brand new business owner?
So I started this whole journey when I was in my final year of my master's, and I think from the start the hardest thing was that sort of time management. I
Sure.
was slightly crazy for deciding to go down this road in the midst of such an important year, but I think if you really have passion towards something, it does make the journey 10 times easier.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was a big learning curve, and it was great to kind of hone in on those like time management skills and to be able to persevere through that. Again, I think another big learning curve, and it's not so really much a challenge because I enjoy this element of being a business owner, but when you start your own business, you really do have to wear all the hats. You know, you have to be involved in sort of like areas that you would never think that you would have your hands in, you know, like marketing and PR and social media and the likes of that. And these are kind of areas I would have never been really exposed to if I just stuck down a purely mechanical engineering route in my career. So that's been really exciting actually to learn more skills very quickly.
Yeah, so you're across the whole business. So you've had a lot of business learnings there. What have you learned about yourself?
I think it's a lot. I think in the early stage of any business with any founder, there's like a lot of sort of imposter syndrome and self-doubt, especially if you're not from, you know, purely a business background. And I
Yeah.
think it's just realizing that like you have to fake it till you make it until you really have that confidence to push yourself forward, and just realizing that like everyone else is in the same boat in that sense. So I think it really opened up my eyes to how much resilience I had, which has been really good for giving me that motivation to go forward with it.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you have to, you know, when things get tough, you have to lean on a lot on your passion for the project as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, there's such a strong community in the startup community in Northern Ireland, and there's so much help and support out there, and people who are willing to give advice. So it's just really stepping out of your comfort zone and putting yourself forward to ask for that advice. I know it's hard for some people to ask for help when they really need it, but I feel like you can develop 10 times faster, you know, when you avail of those facilities that are out there.
Yeah, so actually just asking for the help that's available is allowing you to speed up. And I mean, that's pretty evident. You know, as you say, it's been 5 short months and you're hoping to launch in another two, really.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been crazy, but we've had support from a lot of different areas. We won the Queen's Dragon's Den Award in May this year. So we've had a lot of support from SU Enterprise, who have been fantastic with giving us our first access to mentoring and legal advice and financial advice that we so desperately needed in those first few weeks. And also this whole business idea kind of grew out of the Catalyst co-founders program. So that's where I met my co-founder, and we started building our team from there. And it really takes you through the steps of validating prototype testing right through to, you know, pitching skills and how to really get yourself out there to bring your business idea forward. So it was so useful as well. And Catalyst still are such a massive support for us. So we're really, really grateful for that.
That's cool. So have you picked up any favorite quotes or sayings that you've learned along the way that have served you well?
Yeah, I think when you're in this scene, you go to so many really inspirational talks and hear so many great quotes that I think end up really speaking to you. But one I had heard recently, I just read that Bill Gates had said this, that your most unhappy customers are your biggest points of learning. And kind of going through again our campaign and our survey and listening to feedback from potential customers, I think it's so important to be able to take criticism. And although we don't have customers yet, but especially in the EV market, you know, there is a lot of skepticism because it is such a new market. And you know, there's a lot of media attention on like the pros and cons of buying an EV. So with that, it is a bit of a struggle sometimes in the market, especially when you're trying to, you know, reach out to people who aren't those early adopter EV owners. So I think it is really important. And there's a lot to be learned from criticism and people who want to give, feedback to really improve your idea. Because I think if it's easy to surround yourself with people that are like, yes, this is brilliant, this is going to work. And there's nothing really to be learned from that and to grow from that. So I think that's been one of the most important things I've learned along the way.
So if you were to go back, and again, it's so important to keep learning, isn't it? Otherwise you're just going to plateau. But if you were to go back then, just right to the start, I mean, was it last year you started in the final year in your master's then? So
yeah.
If you look at when you started, is there anything you would do differently?
I'm not really sure. I think I'm so early into the whole startup world that I think there's still like a lot of reflection to be made along the way. I think at the get-go, I did again have a lot of that self-doubt and this idea that the only people who go down into the startup world are people who went and did business degrees, or their parents are business owners, so they've really had that sort of early insight into business. So I think it really opened my eyes early on that like the beauty of being in the startup world is that everyone is from such different backgrounds. Everyone, whether they went to uni or not, you have people and they're juggling, full-time jobs and children and families while they're building their business. There's so much diversity there. And I think there's no real strict criteria for, what an entrepreneur should look like. So I think it is such an accessible, space to be in, as long as you do have that passion.
Yeah, and you're so close to launch now, and it's a couple of months out. What does the future look like? What's the next 3 years look like for you guys, and what do you think are the main challenges moving forward?
Yes, so one of the things we've just started focusing on now is how to keep our business model diversified and to evolve with the market as it goes on. As Northern Ireland does more work to put out public chargers out onto the market, what does this mean for the survival of our business? And it's always great to think ahead. So some things that we have started R&D in is a possible B2B model. So allowing business owners or urban landowners who want to install a private fast charger, that they can optimize in their revenue by publicly allowing access through a B2B version of Goplugable, where members of the public can schedule in to book and use those fast chargers. So we still have a lot of validation to do on that idea, but it is, a very exciting project that we could be launching, within the next 2 years. So yeah.
So the future looks bright. Well, listen, I think it's a brilliant product and sorely needed at the minute, certainly. So listen, I wish you well with it, and thank you so much for coming on Business Owner Spotlight and telling us a bit about your story so far.
Thank you, really appreciate it.